And I noticed, Christopher, I think you've been at every table. The quintessential pastor, excellent.
He missed ours. He missed our table.
Oh, yeah. Make sure, it's sort of like before the service, making sure you know who all's there. We are so pleased to have our very own Dave Funderburk to present our program this evening. Dave grew up as a preacher's kid, so we have a special fellowship. Any of you who are preacher's kids, Donna, you know. We have other preacher's kids here. All right. Well, you have kids who are preacher's kids. All right. With no further ado, we ask you to come and share with us and be in our midst. The wonderful man that you are. And you've preached for us, you have taught Sunday school, and you have regaled us with your good humor. So we look forward to what you have for us.
Okay, thank you. I was a little nervous about doing this. So I made me some notes here. So I may have to refer to them as time goes on. Really thanks for inviting me. It's considered a privilege. And I was just thinking about stewardship and two serious things. I looked at various definitions and quotes about stewardship, and one of the ones I found was stewardship is service over self-interest, which is I think sort of sums it up. And Martin Luther said it was a conversion of heart, mind, and purse. And as much as sometimes we don't want to think about stewardship as being only money or finances, and that really gets to the bottom of all of it. I was just doing reading a scientific study about beautiful women, good-looking women. We have many good-looking women here in this meeting tonight, and how they choose their mates. And there were two different things. One was they wanted, some women want to choose men just as handsome as they are beautiful. And others are more practical and choose a mate on the basis of how much money he has or the potential that he has of making money. And I would just ask the men who have their wives here tonight to look and guess which men you are. Because I asked Moselle one time, I said, would you still love me if I lost all our money? And she said, I miss you too. We've been married 41 years, and one of my friends saw us in the mall, and he said, I saw you in the mall. You've been married 41 years. You were holding her hands, and I said, if I turn loose, you'll buy something. And he says, when you're traveling, who does the driving? And I said, she does the driving. I just hold the steering wheel. I'll hear from this at home.
Why don't you turn that around?
I will just caution you that I'm going to tell several stories tonight. I'm going to tell them as if they are true. They may not be. There may be an element of truth in them. It may be very tiny. It may be almost a complete fabrication, but so just keep these things in mind. As Linda mentioned, my dad was a preacher and got into the ministry in a way that many people did in the 30s and 40s. He was in the Army, married my mother, got out of the Army, came to live in the town where she and my grandmother were living. My grandmother ran a little store. He started going to the church, the Wesleyan church. At that time it was called the Wesleyan Methodist Church. Had a conversion, felt a call to enter the ministry with no training at all, and as is often the time in small towns at that time, and this is the truth. But you ever hear people say, "Now this is a true story," and immediately you say, "Well, that's not a true story." You know? This is partially a true story, but he really did. He decided he would start preaching anywhere he could. He became a street preacher, and it was legitimate at that time. On Saturday afternoon, he would go down to the end of town. There was a little beer joint there. He acquired 2 loudspeakers. Remember those big loudspeakers? Put them on the top of his 1931 Ford A model. I think he had 4 78 records of the Chuck Wagon Gang. He'd crank those things up and would preach to anybody who would listen to him. And there was one day that, and I was a reluctant volunteer for all of his different things. I would come and stand in the back and be a background singer when I could not get out of it. But he told Brother Jimmy, who was his song leader, he says, "Jimmy, go into the beer joint there and tell everybody who wants to go to heaven to come out here and stand on the sidewalk with me." And Brother Jimmy went in and he said, "All right, all you people who want to go to heaven," Preacher Jack says, "I want you to come out and stand on the sidewalk." So he came out, and Daddy said, "Did everybody come out?" And he said, "Everybody except old Joe." Old Joe's in the corner. He was the town drunk. Actually, he wasn't our town drunk. We weren't big enough to have a town and drunk by ourselves. We had to share him with 2 other towns. So Daddy stuck his head in and says, "Joe, don't you want to go to heaven when you die?" And Joe said, "Well, when I die, yeah, I thought you was getting a load up right now." Daddy, and this is a truth, then acquired a tent, and he set it up in a nearby town and established a little mission church, and every Wednesday evening and Sunday evening we would go there, and sometimes there were a good many people there, and sometimes there weren't, and every time he would always pass the collection plate around. And I remember one time he asked a little boy, he said, "Come up here, young man, I'm going to say a prayer and I want you to pass the offering plate around. And just to start things off, I'm going to put 50 cents in." So Daddy put 50 cents in. The little boy went around all the 25 or 30 people and came back. It was still just 50 cents in. This is a good steward moment too. The little boy handed the plate to Daddy, and there was still 50 cents in. He said, "Preacher, if you'd have put more in, you'd have got more out." If you don't remember anything else, remember that. You might not know this, but I've been in the choir quite a while. Barbara's put up with me and several other people, but there was a time, and I hate to even mention this to Linda, but Linda caught me out in the hall and said, "Come in my office midday." And I came in and she said, "We've had some complaints about your singing in the choir. Some people say you flat, you're sharp, you don't come in at the right time, doze off in the choir loft while I'm preaching." And I said, "I'm sorry, but how many complaints have you had?" And she said, "We've had 5. We've had 5 complaints about your singing and your behavior." And I said, "Well, Linda, I've had at least 10 about your preaching." And I'll let you keep preaching if you let me keep singing.